Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Babel on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Mem Vav of Masechta Shabbis. We will continue on our exploration of muktza. Daf will start off with sort of a final clarification on Rabbi Yochanan's opinion regarding muktza vis-a-vis Rabbi Yehuda versus Rabbi Shimon. Then further going to go on, like who holds like Reb Shimon and who holds like Rabbi Yehuda, that kind of stuff. We're then going to clarify Reb Shimon's opinion about like kind of not holding like muktza, but also holding kind of like muktza in the right scenarios, which I guess just like everybody. I mean, with the exception of Rabbi Nechemia, I mean, it seems like all the other muktza people kind of also hold of muktza as long as it's the criteria for muktza. So it doesn't make Reb Shimon that much different, other than he's just, a lot more things fall on the non-muktza side of things for him. But like, we keep on talking about things that are like certain criteria that would be considered muktza for him. Anyways, and then at the end we actually talk a little bit about Reb Shimon's opinion on davar she'eino miskavein, which is cool because like I actually asked the other day, like I don't get it. Why does Reb Shimon say that you're not allowed to move a candle? What, you scared you're going to put it out? That would be davar she'eino miskavein. The Gemara Taka asked that kasha. So that comes like all the way towards the end. So it gives you something to be excited about towards the end. But the whole page is good. So without further ado, let's just do what we do best. Babble about Talmud. Alright, so Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph, about 8 lines into the page. Umiyam Rabbi Yochanan Hachi. Does Rabbi Yochanan really say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, and that with regard to muktza as opposed to Rabbi Shimon? Ve'amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha k'stam mishnah. No, we know that Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is that when you have a stam mishnah, when you have an anonymous mishnah, if you have a mishnah that just says a halacha and it doesn't attribute it to anybody, well then you know that the halacha is like that mishnah. Okay, so now, so how could Rabbi Yochanan himself say that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to muktza, if we seemingly have a mishnah that is saying that the halacha would sound like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to muktza? Let's see, what is that? Utnan. We learned in the mishnah that we quoted the other day, was it maybe 2 days ago, 3 days ago, who can remember already? Right? Oh gosh, yeah, I don't know, maybe 3 days ago, 4 days ago, who can remember? But it was that muchni thing. Remember? I don't know, it was that muchni thing. That wagon, right, with the wheel. So, muchni shela, so the wheel of the wagon, bismanchi nishmetes, as long as it can become disconnected from the wagon. So, ein chibur la, so then, it wouldn't be considered connected to the wagon. So if the wagon becomes tameh, the wheel would not. Veinim dedesima, and it doesn't get measured with it. If you're trying to measure how large the wagon is to figure out if it's able to be makabel tuma, you would not include the wheel. Vein matzelasima ba'ola mace, and if the wagon is attempting to create an ohel to prevent its contents from being tameh, if any of the contents are sticking out of the wagon at the top and the wheel is larger than the wagon, the wheel is not going to make it as though the contents are nonetheless in the wagon. Okay. Okay. Now, here's the interesting part for us. Ve'ein gorin osa b'Shabbos b'zman sheish aleh mos. That you may not move this wheel. I assume if it's disconnected from the wagon and it's just lying on the floor or something, you wouldn't be able to drag this wheel on Shabbos if there is money. Whoa. It sounds like somebody's unhappy. Alright. Wow. Very, very unhappy. Okay. Anyways. So if there's money on this wheel, so then you can't move the wheel on, I'm not laughing that they're unhappy, but they're pretty unhappy, I think. Well, it's probably just like one sibling being tired of being locked up in the same home with their other siblings, and maybe they got a little bit insulted or something. But very, very insulted. Okay. So Anyways, so if there's money on this wheel, so then you're not allowed to move the wheel on Shabbos. And then we say, and we say that if there's no money on this wheel, well then it would be permitted to move this wheel. And even though the money was on the wheel during the entire Bein Hashmashes, right? And we explained this the other day to be referring to R Shimon, right? Because if it is Rabbi Yehuda, well, if the money was on the wheel during the entire Bein Hashmashos, well then it's going to be muktza for the entire Shabbos. Because as Rabbi Abou said the other day, that once something is muktza during Bein Hashmashos, so then it's muktza for the entire Shabbos. So, wow. Yeah, this unhappy sibling is making it quite difficult to concentrate. Anyways, so it would sound like from here that if there is no money on this wheel, so then it would be permitted to move this wheel, regardless of if the money was on the wheel during the entire Bein Hashmashos or not. And therefore, it cannot be Rabbi Yehuda. It must be that this Mishnah is Rabbi Shimon. That's what we had said the other day, and that's what we're assuming right now. And therefore, and it doesn't actually attribute the Mishnah to anybody, but we're assuming that it has to be Rabbi Shimon, because if it was Rabbi Yehuda, well then it would be muktza the entire Shabbos if there was money on it during the entire Bein Hashmashos. So this must be Rabbi Shimon, and we know that Rabbi Yochanan holds that when you have a stam Mishnah, the halacha is like that stam Mishnah, so it must be that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon. So how could it possibly be that Rabbi Yochanan is saying that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda? That is the Gemara's kasha. So now, Amar Reb Zera says, Reb Zera tehei Mishnah seinu shelo hayu alei amos kol Bein Hashmashos. Right? So Reb Zera says, okay, well, you know what? Let's say that this Mishnah is talking about where there was not money on this wheel for the entire Bein Hashmashos, right? And therefore, because there was not money on the wheel, their entire Bein Hashmashos, well then, the fact of the matter is that as long as there's no money on this wheel right now, well then you would be able to move this wheel. And then we could say that this Mishnah even is Rabbi Yehuda, who holds of muktza. Okay? And how come Reb Zera says that we're going to explain the Mishnah this way? Shelo lishbor davar of Rabbi Yochanan. In order to preserve the words of Rabbi Yochanan. That's awesome. Meaning, like, really we don't want to necessarily explain the Mishnah this way, and it's not necessarily the simple way or the best way to understand the Mishnah, but we do want to make sure that Rabbi Yochanan will make sense. So therefore we will explain it this way. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Said Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Pamachas halach Rebbe le-Diospora. Okay, so one time Rebbe went to a place called Diospora. V'hor b'menorah Reb Shimon ben. Interesting. And he ruled when it comes to a menorah that it's like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to a candle. What does that mean? So the Gemara wants to know what that means. So Yibailu, so they asked, Hora b'menorah Reb Shimon ben le'atera? Are we saying that Rebbe said that a menorah is like what Reb Shimon says when it comes to a candle? Meaning, Reb Shimon says that when it comes to a candle, even if it's already used, right, even if it's an old candle, it's not muktza. You can still use it, right? And we're saying that just like, it's le'atera by a candle, so it's also le'atera by a menorah, to say that it's not muktza. Or Dilmar, maybe what he's saying is hora b'menorah le'isura. He was saying that a menorah you're not allowed to move, right? Reb Shimon ben. But when it comes to a candle, he passing like Reb Shimon that it wouldn't be muktza and you can move it, right? Le'atera, teku. And the Gemara says, yeah, we don't know the answer to this kasha. Okay. Rav Malchia ikla levei Rabbi Simlai. So Rav Malchia visited Rabbi Simlai. V'tiltel shraga v'ikbid Rabbi Simlai. And Rabbi Malchia he moved a candle, and Rashi says it's a candle that was already extinguished, right? So he moved it, like Rabbi Shimon would say that you can move it. That was not the right thing to do. Rabbi Simlai got very upset. Okay? Rabbi Yossi Glila, ikla la'asad Rabbi Yossi Rab Chanina. So Rabbi Yossi Glila visited Rabbi Yossi Rab Chanina. Tiltel shraga v'ikbid Rabbi Yossi Rab Chanina. Same thing happened. Rabbi Yossi Glila moved a candle that was already extinguished, and Rabbi Yossi Rab Chanina got upset. Rabbi Abou, now we teach about Rabbi Abou that ki ikla la'asad Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So when you would go and visit Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who if we recall from, what was it, yesterday I believe, if we recall from Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi that Was Rabbi Shimon Levi? Was it yesterday? Was it 2 days ago? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. So that Rabbi Shimon Levi holds like Rabbi Shimon when it comes to muktza, whereas Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to muktza. So Rabbi Abahu kiyikla la'asad Rabbi Shimon Levi av metaltal shraga. So when he would visit Rabbi Shimon Levi, he would move a candle that was already extinguished, like Rabbi Shimon. Kiyikla la'asad Rabbi Yochanan lo av metaltal shraga. And when he would go to Rabbi Yochanan's place, he wouldn't move the candle, because Rabbi Yochanan held like Rabbi Yehuda that it would be muktza. Manavshach, the Gemara says, 1 second, I don't get it. If he holds like Rabbi Yehuda, well then he should do like Rabbi Yehuda and not move the candle even when he's visiting Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who holds like Rabbi Shimon. Then the Avid Rabbi Shimon. Well, if he holds like Rabbi Shimon, well then he should do like Rabbi Shimon even when he's by Rabbi Yochanan, who holds like Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara answers, L'olam Rabbi Shimon Svirle. Really, Rabbi Abahu holds like Rabbi Shimon that it's permitted to move this candle that's extinguished. However, out of respect for Rabbi Yochanan, he did not move the candle when he was by Rabbi Yochanan, because Rabbi Yochanan holds like Rabbi Yehuda that it would be muktza. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda. So said Rabbi Yehuda, Shraga de Mishcha, Sharil Taltula. So if you have a candle of oil, an oil candle that has already extinguished, so you would be permitted to move it, like Rabbi Shimon says. The nafta also tatula. However, if it's made out of nafta, which, if I remember correctly from Mem Malikin, the Sefaria just translated it as nafta. Okay. Also, tatula, you wouldn't be allowed to move it. And Rashi says the masrach, that it's disgusting, and afilu Rabbi Shimon moded lo chazi ela lemlachto, that it's not fit for anything other than its work, which is lighting it as a candle, and that would be something that's also on Shabbos, and therefore you cannot move this candle. Rabbi Yosef damitavayu dinafta nami shayla tatula. But Rabbi and Rabbi Yosef say no, even when it's made out, even this candle of napta, you would be allowed to move it. Okay? Now here's an interesting story about this machlokas between, really the statement of Rabbi and Rav Yosef. So Rav Avia, ki ikla levei Rava. So Rav Avia visited Rava's house. Now, Rava, I think, was a wealthy man. And maybe he had a fancy house. And have a mi'isan beikare betina asive apuria kame de Rava. And Rav Avia did not behave the way he was meant to behave, and his shoes were all muddy, and he put his muddy feet on Rava's couch. Now ikbid Rava. Now Rava got upset, and he was like kind of irked. And he said, you know what? I'm annoyed. I'm going to outsmart this little punk. So he wanted to make Rabbi Avia feel like a nobody, like a fool. So Amarle, my timer, Rav Yosef, Damir Tavayu, Shraga Denafta, Nami Shrailo Tutule. So he says, Rav Avia, how come Rabba and Rav Yosef say that you're allowed to move a candle made out of napta, or lit, fueled with napta? So Rav Avia said, well, because you're allowed to use that you can use the candle to cover up some kind of item. I don't know, you take this candle, you want to use it to cover something. So you might not be able to put contents inside of it because this napta is kind of gross, but you can pick it up and cover something else with it. Well, then Rav said, okay, well, well then Rav said, oh yeah, well if that's the case, then why can't I just take a bunch of pebbles from my chatzar, and I can use that also to cover objects. So what, should those also be? Should I be allowed to move those on Shabbos? So Amarle, so Avi said, yeah, but ha ikatoras kli alea, hani lekatoras kli alein. So Avi said, yeah, but there's a difference. That this menorah, this ner, this candle, has a toras kli. It has the status of a vessel, because it has the status of a vessel, that's why you're allowed to move it. So even though you wouldn't be allowed to put stuff inside of it, because it would be disgusting because it had naphtha in there, but once the flame is out, you can move the nair because it has a Torah's kli and you can cover something with it. But these pebbles and stuff don't have a Torah's kli. They're not a vessel, and therefore you can't, move them in order to cover something. Milotani, because after all, do we not learn in a braisa, Hashirim v'anizam v'tabos, that bracelets and nose rings and rings, Harein kechol ha'kelim anitolim b'chatzer, you're allowed to move them in a chatzer if you're in a Rishus HaYachid, even though you're not allowed to take them out to Rishus HaRabim, and we're going to get to that later on, I believe. Not even that long. It sounds like maybe like another week and a half or so. In the parak of Bameh Isha Yotza. So we're going to talk about, I guess, what things. Shmuley Perkel, you had asked about this a few weeks ago. So we're going to talk about things about like what are you allowed to take out to Rosh Hashanah with you and not. But apparently, at least at this point, the assumption is that bracelets, nose rings, and rings you would not be allowed to take out to the Rosh Hashanah. And yet, you would be allowed to move them around in the Chatzer. V'amar Ula, and says Ula matam, how come? Hol v'ika Torah's kli aleim. Since they have a Torah's kli, right? They're vessels, they're kalim, they're objects, and therefore you can move them. As opposed to, right, and therefore here also, this nair that had naphtha in it, so it has a kli, Torah's kli, so you can move it to cover something else. But pebbles don't have a Torah's kli, they're not a vessel, and therefore you can't, move them even though you want to use it to cover something. Okay? Amr Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, said Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Brich Rachmanad lo ksife Rav Rav Avia. So Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Baruch Hashem, that Rava did not embarrass Rav Avia. Because after all, Rava was kind of upset with the Rav and he was trying to outsmart him by asking him complicated questions, and he didn't succeed. So I don't know if Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak was saying that Baruch Hashem, he didn't succeed because, that would be a terrible thing. We definitely wouldn't want Rava to embarrass Rav Avia. Or it could be because we're so happy that Rava didn't actually succeed in embarrassing Rav Avia and that Rav Avia stood up to Rava because we got to learn this great halacha about that you can move the nair since it is a kli. Ramile Abai l'Rabba. So Abai asked the kasha to Rabba. Tanya, we learn in a brayse, Moser Hashem and Shebener v'Shebekaira Aser. So it's a brayse that we've already quoted before, right? That whatever oil is left over in a candle or in a bowl that you were lighting a flame in, Aser. The leftover oil is not is muktza. Reb Shimon Matir. Reb Shimon says that you would be allowed to benefit from it. Amal Reb Shimon leis le muktza. So we see that according to Reb Shimon, there's no concept of muktza. But one second, for Aminu, we have a kasha. Reb Shimon Omer. It says Reb Shimon, Kol she'ein mumo nikr me'erev yomtiv ein ze min hamuchan. Reb Shimon says that if you have a bechor, right? You have an animal, a firstborn animal. Now this animal needs to go to the kohen, to the priest. Now, if it gets a mum, however, if it gets some kind of a blemish, well then it doesn't go to the kohen and you can shecht it and you can eat it. So let's say now it is Yom Tiv and you have this bechor. Now on Erev Yom Tiv, the bechor was doing just fine. And then you wake up Yom Tiv morning and there is a mum on it. So we say, so Reb Shimon says, since this mum, since this blemish was not recognizable yesterday before Yom Tiv, so today, on Yom Tif, when you notice that there's a mum there, you nonetheless would not be allowed to shecht and eat it because it's muktza. But I thought Reb Shimon doesn't hold of muktza. So that's the kasha, right? So I thought Reb Shimon doesn't hold of muktza. Why is he saying that this animal is muktza? So the more answers, hachi hashta. So it says hasam, but you read this hacha and the next one says hacha, you read hasam. So hachi hashta hacha. Interesting. When it comes to a candle, the guy knows that it's going to go out. And you kind of also saw this, with, that opinion the other day that said that Reb Shimon would say that when you have a full bowl worth of oil that you didn't expect to go out the entire Shabbos and it goes out, that would be muktza even if it goes out prematurely, right? So we're saying here also, right, when it comes to a candle, right, a person expects that the candle is going to go out, and therefore whatever's left over, he's allowed to get benefit from. However, Hasam, when it comes to this animal, this Bechor animal, Adam Yoshev Mitzapim Masa Yipo Mum. What is a person really, meaning on Erev Yom Tiv, this animal didn't have a mum. This animal was perfectly healthy. Is a person just like sitting there waiting, like, okay, yeah, this mum is going to come any second now. Oh, and then the mum finally comes the next day and he's like, okay, oh yeah, I knew this was going to happen. No, Meimar Amri says, Mi Yemar Dunafil Be Muma. No, he's going to say to himself, like, what are the chances that there's actually a mum that's going to get on this animal? Vim Tivtzelomar Dunafil Be Muma, Mi Yemar Dunafil Be Mum Kavua. And even if it will get a mum, who says it'll be a mum that is permanent, right? And in order for you to be able to shech this animal, it would have to be a permanent mum, like an amputated leg or something. And even if it does get a permanent mum, well, who says that he'll be able to even find a Talmud Chacham on Shabbos that he could show the mum to get a confirmation that it's a real mum, that he could check it. I think I said Shabbos when I meant Yom Tiv. Right? So therefore, this is just like so completely out of his like thoughts that this animal that was perfectly healthy yesterday is gonna today have like a mum to the extent that I'll be able to shecht it, and therefore, it's so far removed from his mind and his thoughts that even Reb Shimon would say that it's muktza. Okay, so again, so we're seeing another kind of instance where Reb Shimon would hold of muktza, when it's just so far out of your thoughts, right? Then that seems to be like a thing with Reb Shimon and muktza, right? Like he seems to say that in general there's no muktza, but in things that are just so far removed, right? Whether it's like this, like what are the chances that this mum is going to happen? You're not even thinking about it. Or something that's completely useless, like, money on Shabbos. It has no purpose because you can't buy anything with it. You can't do anything with it. It's just random metal, right? Or like these, grogros and simukim that are like in the middle of drying, that are just like, you can't eat them, they'll get you sick. These things that are just so completely removed, Reb Shimon kind of agrees that there would be muktza over there. So Rabbi Barchama asked the kasha. Mefir nedarim b'Shabbos. You can be mefer a neder on Shabbos. What's mefer a neder? If a woman makes a neder, so let's say on Shabbos she says, I'm not going to eat any food on Shabbos, right? And so her husband is allowed to nullify that neder and say, here, now you can eat. And you can also ask a chacham. You can if a man made like a neder, and or I guess an unmarried woman made a neder and said, I'm not going to eat this Shabbos, well then you can go to a Talmud Chacham to get that vow permitted, and then you're going to be able to eat again. So the question is, 1 second, v'amai, why would you be able to eat after your vow has been like annulled? Meaning, when you made that vow and you said, I'm not going to eat anything the entire day on Shabbos, right? You were not expecting that somebody was going to undo your vow and now you're going to be eating in an hour from now. And therefore, it should be totally removed from your mind, and it should make all food muktza. And therefore, even, let's say the husband nullifying his wife's vow, that doesn't make the food unmuktza. So lema miyemad mizdakik la baal. We should say, like, the wife, when she makes this now, she's not assuming that her husband is going to nullify it. So therefore, all food should be muksa. So the Gemara answers, actually, Hasum kidra Pinchas mishmei de Rava. Actually, in this case, we're going like a Pinchas in the name of Rava, the Amr of Pinchas mishmei de Rava. Kol anoderes al das baile noderes. Oh, that if a wife is making a vow, she's making this vow with the kind of on the da'as of her husband, meaning she's making the vow assuming like, yeah, I'm only making this vow as long as my husband kind of goes along with it, but if he doesn't go along with it, well then this vow is going to be nullified. And therefore, she kind of built into the vow is that it's only good so long as my husband kind of goes along with it, but if he's not going to go along with it, then I know that this vow is going to be null and void, and I'll be eating in an hour from now, right? So therefore, it's not completely removed from her mind. Alright? Tashma, come in here. Nish'al lindarim shal tzorech HaShabbos b'Shabbos. So we're allowed to, so if like, a man were to make a neder on Shabbos that he's not going to eat any food on Shabbos, well then, you're allowed to go to Talmud Chacham to get that, undone for you. V'amai, but how come? Lema miyemer de mizdakek le'chacham. We should say, who says that he's going to find a chacham to be matir his neder? Right? And therefore, when he says, I'm not going to eat anything this entire Shabbos, he means it. Because he has no guarantee that he's going to find a chacham to be matir his neder. Well, the Gemara answers, actually, Hasam, ilom izdakek lechacham sagile begimel adyotos. No, actually, in this case, if this guy who makes a neder, if he's not going to find a chacham, he'll be able to just find, 3 nudniks, and they could be matir the neder for him, right? Think about what goes on in Erev Rosh Hashanah with Ataris Nedarim. Even I can sit in a bezdin for Ataris Nedarim. So hacha, whereas when it comes to this mum for this bechor, miyemet mizdakek lechacham, Mamish, who says that you will succeed in finding a chacham to be matir, and so you think that you found a mum in this animal. Who Mamish says that you're going to find a chacham to be to say, yeah, you could check this animal. So therefore, it's so far removed from your mind that you're actually going to be able to check this animal on Yom Tiv that if it turns out that there's like a mum in the animal on Yom Tiv, you're still not going to be able to check that on Yom Tiv. Now, this is interesting. Ramile Abai Rav Yosef. So Abai asks Rav Yosef, Mi Amar Reb Shimon kavsa mutar l'taltala? Does Reb Shimon really say that only once the candle has been extinguished you'd be allowed to move it? However, kavsa ini lo kavsa lo? Only if the candle is extinguished you can move it. But you could move it. But if it's still lit, you would not be able to move it, according to Reb Shimon. But my taima, how come you can't move this candle? Dilma bahadi dinakidla kavsa. What is he concerned that maybe while he's moving it, it'll go out? So what? Hashamina le'ed Reb Shimon davar she'en miskavein mutter. But we know that Reb Shimon holds that a davar she'en miskavein, something that you do unintentionally, is mutter. And here you didn't intend to extinguish this flame. So if it goes out, so what? It wasn't your intention. The Tanya is we learn in the Brayso, Reb Shimon Omer, says Reb Shimon, as we've seen a few times, Kor Adam Kisamita V'Safsel. A person is allowed to drag a chair, a bed, and a bench, as long as he doesn't intend to make a furrow. And as long as he didn't intend to make a furrow, if a furrow was made, Seder, it wasn't his intention. So here also, as long as he doesn't intend to extinguish his candle, so if the candle goes out, so Seder, what does he care? So Gemara says, well, actually, it's not so pashit when it comes to Reb Shimon and davar she'en miskavein. Rather, kolecha dechi michavein ika isur de oraisa. Rather, in a context where if he did it intentionally, there would be an isur de oraisa, like here, extinguishing a flame is an isur de oraisa. It's mechabe, it's an av melacha, or maybe it's a tolada, something like that. So kilo michavein gazer Reb Shimon midrabanan. So therefore, in the case of, when you would be chayav in Isser, for an Isser de Oraisa, if you did it intentionally, such as by Mechaber, so then Reb Shimon says, even if you do it unintentionally, it would still be Asur Midrabanan, and therefore we don't want him to, move this candle lest it go out even unintentionally. Okay? And kol echad dechi mechaven ika isur d'Rabbanan kilo mechaven shari Reb Shimon lechatchila. And in a situation where what you do would only be an isur midrabbanan, such as by dragging a bench, because making a furrow is is part of chofer, right? Digging, which is like from what's it called, plowing. And this is not a normal way to plow by dragging a bench. So therefore it's kila achar yad. So maximum it's asur midrabbanan. So therefore if you did it, you're dragging the bench, maybe you'll make a furrow, maybe you won't. If you happen to make a furrow, as long as it wasn't your intention, it's mutter. Okay, which is interesting, because if we're going to accept this approach, it means that davar she'eino miskavein, according to R Shimon, is not actually mutter. We have all these like cool concepts according to R Shimon that it seems to be so like lenient, right? Doesn't hold of muktza, davar she'eino miskavein is mutter. All of a sudden we're finding out slowly that actually it depends, right? So if we take this route, then that would mean that according to R Shimon, that davar she'eino miskavein isn't necessarily mutter. It's only mutter when the thing that you're doing would be an issur d'Rabbanan. But if the thing that you're doing would be an issur d'Oraisa, it would be also mid'Rabbanan. Therefore, effectively you wouldn't be able to do it. Now, Masav Rava asks a kasha on this mahalach. This is a Mishnah that we've seen before, and it is that mochrei ksus mochrin kedarkan v'vad shelo yiskaven b'chamim p'nei achamim v'shamim p'nei agashamim. So it says that people who are selling clothing, and they want to show people what the clothing looks like, so they're allowed to put on the clothing even if the clothing is shatnez, even if it's kilayim, if it's shatnez, it's wool and linen together, as long as he doesn't intend to get benefit from it, right? So if it's sunny out and he's putting it on to protect him from the sun, or if it's cold out and he's putting it on to protect himself from the cold or rain, so then it's a problem. But as long as he doesn't intend to get anah from it, so davar she'eino miskavein, he's not getting anah, so he could put it on, and even if he ends up getting anah, it wasn't his intention. That's nuin. Mafshilin b'makol achorein. It's somebody who wants to be, like extra makpid and wants to avoid putting it on himself, in any, completely. So then, he can just put it on like a stick or something and put the stick behind him and kind of show off the clothing that way. And in this case, if he would do it intentionally, if he would wear this clothing intentionally, the shan is intentionally, he would be violating an Isur d'Oraisa, and yet, and yet Reb Shimon is saying that as long as he doesn't intend to get anah from these clothing, you can wear them. And you don't have to put them on the pole, because after all, you could just put them on the pole behind them and avoid the whole thing completely. And he's saying, no, don't worry. As long as you don't have kavanah to get anah, it's fine. And here it's something that if you did intentionally, it would be also mid'oraisa. So that's the kasha with the previous mahalach. So Ella Amar Rava, rather Rava explains, Hanach l'ner shemen ufsila. No, the reason why Reb Shimon says that you're not allowed to move a candle while it's still lit, it's not because we're concerned that the flame's going to go out. That would be davar she'eino miskavein and it's mutter. Rather, hold an ice basas davar asur. The thing is that as long as the flame is lit, so the flame is something that is asur, right? To deal with the flame on Shabbos is not allowed. So therefore, the candle that is the base for this flame, because it's a base for the flame, so leave it alone as long as it's lit. Once it's no longer lit, then it's no longer a base for this flame, and you can move it. Well, that was Daf Mem Vav of Masechta Shabbos. Let's do a review of today's daf. Today's daf was just kind of more stuff about muktza, right? They weren't kind of well-defined sugyas, but okay, so we did a final clarification of Yochanan's position on muktza that he holds like Rabbi Yehuda. We said, but there's a Stam Mishnah that seems to be like Reb Shimon, and he says that you always pass like a Stam Mishnah, so Reb Zera kind of wrangled it to say that the Stam Mishnah could theoretically be like Rabbi Yehuda, and he even admits that was just so that we could make sense of Rabbi Yochanan. Okay. Then we kind of did all further explanation of who holds like Rabbi Yehuda and who holds like Reb Shimon, right? There were, some stories of people doing the wrong thing in front of Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Chanina, and other people. Then there was a story, the Gemara said that Rabbi Abou, when he was by Rabbi Shimon Levi, he would do like Reb Shimon, and when he was by Rabbi Yochanan, he would do like Rabbi Yehuda. Okay, Seder. And we had that story with Rava when he tried to outsmart Rav Avia, and he actually did not succeed, which was interesting. Okay. And then we clarified Reb Shimon's opinion on then we went further a little bit on Reb Shimon's opinion regarding muktza, right? From the case of this bechor, this animal that didn't have a mum before Shabbos and before Yom Tif and got a mum on Yom Tif. So Reb Shimon would admit that it's muktza and you can't shecht it because it was so far removed from your thought process that this thing would get a mum, on Yom Tif. Because, chances are it wouldn't get a mum. Even if it did get a mum, it probably wouldn't be a mum kavua. And if it did get a mum kavua, who says you'll find somebody to check it out? So, So we see that Reb Shimon would say muktza in a case like that. And then we talked about davar she'eino miskavein there at the end. When does Reb Shimon say davar she'eino miskavein? We had an interesting thought to say that he might only say davar she'eino miskavein when the thing that you're doing wrong is only asur midrabanan. To which Rava asked Akash on that, and he said, no, davar she'eino miskavein is a global thing. Davar she'eino miskavein is mutter no matter what. And he says the reason why you can't move a candle that's lit because it's a base for this flame that is asur. Okay, that was Daf Mem Vav Masechta Shabbos. Hope you all enjoyed. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Peace.